everyone. Welcome to Jennifer's Sewing and Creativity. If it's your first time joining my channel, welcome. If you are a previous subscriber or you're coming from a previous video on my channel, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make fabric lanyards. And these are really simple and quick to put together. And this is my first one that I have done. And it turned out really well. I really like the way it turned out. And you can see the hardware here that I used. And I talked about in it might be the video right before this one or two back from this video, about buying some of the supplies that I would be using. And I purchased some jelly rolls, which are 2.5-inch wide strips that have been pre-cut for you. I purchased them at Joann's. They were on sale. And I really didn't think that they were going to work as good as what they are. A lot of people will cut their fabric so the lanyards end up being 1 inch wide. And I don't know about you, but I'm one of those types of people that I don't like a lot of bulk around my neck. And what I did is, since I really like the idea of thinner lanyards. So this one finished up to be just under 3/4 inches. And so the 2.5-inch wide strip actually works out pretty well. I'm going to shut my shade here. Okay, it's getting kind of dark outside. Okay, so like I said, I'm using the 2.5-inch jelly roll strips. All I did was I took my small quilting ruler, I matched up my ends, and I'm going to show you here to make sure that my ends are nice and even. I just kind of laid it on there. This one is just a little bit off, so I'm going to just trim that small little portion here. And see, that's just really small. And I don't know if that makes much of a difference, but I want my ends to be exactly the same, because you're going to pair them up and sew them so you get your loop for your lanyard. Okay, so what you're going to first want to do is put that back. You're going to want to press or iron your fabric so you get the proper size for your lanyard. And all you're going to do is you're going to take your strip and you're going to fold it in half. And I might be able, let me move some of this stuff out of the way. I will talk about this other stuff in a few minutes. You're going to fold it in half. Press all the way down the length of your strip. And I like my little small iron. Some people call these travel irons. I just like it because it's so nice and small for my desktop. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and press all the way down the length of your fabric. And I'm not going to do that just to save a little time. And then what you're going to do is you're going to open it back up. You're going to take your top half, fold that down, press all the way down the length of your fabric. So once you got that part, let that cool just a minute. Then you're going to come in and take your other half. You're going to press that all the way down the length of your fabric. And you're just folding it up to where that seam line was in the middle. So you're going to, once you have that all pressed, then you're going to fold those together and fold it in half. So you get your strip. And you're going to give that a nice press again, so you make sure that it's nice and pressed. And then what you're going to have is you're going to have a strip that looks like so. So you should have where you folded it in half, folded your first part down to that fold line, pressed it, took the second half, folded it up to that press line, and then again, so you have a nice strip all the way down the length of your fabric. And this, like I said, it finished to right about 1/2 inch is what it should finish up to. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew that. But I'd like to show you first some of the sewing feet that I have found that makes this job just a little bit easier. You can use your regular sewing foot, which is your zigzag foot, and you can look in your manual for the names of your sewing feet if you don't know them. That will list you, give you where your included accessories are. So your zigzag foot will have some marks on the sewing foot, and if you could see those, I'm not sure if you can see those, but there's some little marks here that give you some measurements. And I don't know if it's universal across all machines. Some of your measurements may be slightly different. So definitely play with your sewing feet a little bit and get to know them. So you can use your zigzag foot, or some people will use this is called a blind stitch foot. And you can see that it has this little, right here, it's got that little bar kind of thing on it. And you can kind of see where it separates there in the middle. I'm sorry about the lighting. The lighting's a little off. We're having rain every single day for the last 4 or 5 days here in New Mexico. Yeah, okay, so there's that one. This is called your blind stitch foot. And when I when I was working on the key fobs, I was using the blind stitch foot, and it wasn't letting me use a correct stitch to do the to lock my stitches. So I switched to this one, and this one is called a overcasting foot, and it's got that little kind of like bar thing here also, but it's got a wider, if you can see there in the center. Let me see if I can put this on a piece of paper, and maybe that would help a little bit. We're going to use this. Okay. So you can kind of see that little bar there in the middle, and that lets you put your needle on either the right side or the left side of that bar. And for my brother machine in particular, the very first stitch is my stitch that lets me do a reverse stitch to lock my stitching. And I found that this sewing foot works so much better. And again, this is called a overcasting foot. So I have a couple of these. I have 2 different brother sewing machines, and I have a Singer sewing machine that uses, they're universal on all 3 of them. So that's what I'm going to be using today. I will also be, put these away, and I keep all my sewing feet in this little case. I found this at Walmart. This is actually a case for fishing lures. But I really like it because I can take these little, let me show you here. Can't get my finger in there. There's these little plastic pieces that lets you put them inside so you can divide, put little sections to divide them to whatever size you want. And this works out perfect for all my, I've got my walking foot, I've got my embroidery foot for the Brother SE625. I bet I can use this for free motion quilting as well. I've got my Singer walking foot. I almost forgot what it was called. I've got my Brother walking foot, and so I really like this because I'm able to keep all my sewing feet together. So put that there, and those two there. Okay, so the other foot that I'm going to be using is also my 1/4 inch foot. And if you're familiar with quilting, your 1/4 inch foot is a really great quilting accessory. I like using the 1/4 inch foot that's got the little seam guide on there. You can see the little seam guide here. Okay, and I will show you the reason why I will be using that. So let me move these aside. I'm going to adjust the camera and I will be right back. Okay, so I said I was going to adjust us to the machine, but I actually forgot to tell you guys a really huge important step. And I can't believe I forgot to do that. Okay, so after you get your strip pressed, you're going to want to make sure that you have it all nice and together. And you're going to take your hardware, which is a huge step, and you're going to slide it onto your fabric. And I found that I like to move it all the way down to at least halfway down the strip. And now what you want to do is you're going to take each end of your fabric strip and you're going to open it up. Okay, so each one, you're going to open it up, and you want to take your right sides and match them up. But an important thing is that you don't want to twist your fabric. If you're going to twist it, it's not going to be nice and straight like this. You'll have a twist in your lanyard. So make sure that you lay it down. And what I found worked best for me, this may not work for you, but open it up, put your right side facing up, then make sure walk all the way down the length of your fabric, and when you get to the other end, so that way you know it's not twisted. And you're going to open it up and put your right sides together like so. Okay, and then you're going to take it to the sewing machine and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam, and I'm going to do that off camera since that's really simple. Give me just a moment and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have sewn my strip together with a 1/4 inch seam, and I'm going to just trim my little threads off of there, and we will pop over to the machine in just a moment. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to lay it out and you want to open this seam, and you're going to press it flat, so like so. And you also want to make sure that when you sew this seam, you lock your stitches at each end. I failed to tell you that a moment ago. Okay, so you're going to make sure that your seam is pressed open. like so. And then you're going to want to re-iron that a little so your, or repress it so your strip has its nice little fold marks. Okay. And I found that making sure that I close it again and press it really well again right there helped me to sew over that seam when that time comes. Okay, so now you should have a completely closed, whew, that's still hot. You should have a completely closed strip. So now you got your loop. And what I wanted to do was, some of the videos that I watched, the other people would start their seam way back here. And they said, well, that way your stitching, your back stitching will be hidden at the back of the lanyard behind someone's neck. Well, I didn't really like that idea. So what I did is I just make sure that my seam where I closed the loop is together on both sides. I put a little clip, and then I took a bunch of my other clips, so I made sure that everything was together well. And when I pressed all my lanyard strips, I went ahead and did them all at one time, and that did take me a couple hours to do. I prepared 39 of them, and I just got the, when I bought my fabric, I just got the mini jelly rolls, or the half jelly roll, whatever you call them. I know some people call them mini jelly rolls or half rolls. And I just kind of take my little clips and clip all the way. And what I made sure of, that my hardware is by where I did the first seam there. And I'm just going to put another one right up against that. So I keep that right on that where that is, so I'll know where that is. And so I've got it all nice and together. And this one's backwards. So we're going to go over to the machine now. So I will adjust the camera and we'll go back to the machine. And give me just a moment. Okay, so I have us at the machine. And I went ahead and attached the overcast foot. And I'm going to bring my lanyard over to the machine. And I want to make sure I take my little, the table extension off where it goes here on the front. And that just gives me a little bit more room to slide the lanyard up as it's sewing. It'll go around the machine. Okay, so now what I did is I want to make sure that I have my hardware in the correct position. So I put one clip where, I have this backwards. There we go. Just that a little better. Okay, so I first want to find where I had that seam, and that was right here. You can see my seam. And what I want to do is I want to take my hardware and I want to make sure I'm inside out. I want to make sure that I have the seam and the hardware match up. So where my seam is, I'm going to fold it and make sure my hardware is kind of nested where that's going to be, and it looks good. So now what I'm going to do is I like that how it's going to look. So I'm going to sew my sides together, and you want to start with the side that's open. So I have my foot attached, and this is where it's going to give you this nice finished look. See how my seams are right like at the edges, and they're nice and straight on both sides, and it gives it a nice professional clean look. If you are one of those people that are able to sew a straight line without wavering too much from the edge of your fabric, that's great. That's amazing. I'm not one of those people. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to start at where our seam is. So I'm going to put that right up underneath, and I'm going to make sure my bobbin thread is raised, so I got that off to the back, and I'm going to place that up underneath the needle, and I'm going to kind of place it about, you can see on this one that where my seam was right here, this back was a little rough. This was my first one I made. And you want to make sure that your hardware's like right at that. And if you see where I did my lock stitches, I made sure that this was going to be the back of the lanyard. So I started about maybe a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch above that seam. Okay. And the reason why I did that is because I've got my machine set to medium. So I'm going to start sewing, and then I'm going to do my lock stitch, and then I'm going to continue sewing all the way down the length of my lanyard. And you're going to want to make sure that your hardware kind of moves with you. And we're just going to, okay, this isn't matching up quite well. Okay, there we go. And you're just going to sew all the way down. Make sure your edges are nice and neat. And I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera, but this fabric that I got is absolutely gorgeous. Let me show you. I don't know if you're able to see it on the actual folded portion of the strip, but can you see that? This portion is actually a metallic kind of silver, and it's just so pretty. So you have your blue, your teal, and silver, and it is just so gorgeous. And if I would have been able to find fabric like this that was actually yardage, I would have bought it. I absolutely would have bought it. It was just so gorgeous. Okay, so we're going to continue sewing. And you're going to want to make sure that if you've taken your clip off, you want to make sure that your edge stays together. And I might have got a little bit off up here, just maybe 1/8 of an inch. And that is because I'm looking around the edge of the camera. I'm going to put my clips here back in the little container as I go along. And I'm a really cautious sewer, I guess you could say. I like to have everything kind of perfect. Or as perfect as I can possibly get it. And I keep stopping so I can remove the clip and move the hardware down. And you can sew faster if you wish. I am just showing you at a nice slow, I have my machine actually set to medium, so if I have it set on high, it would be a lot louder. So I'm just staying at a nice medium speed. And you can see how nice that fabric is right up against that guide. So it's giving me that nice consistent stitch all the way down. Okay. Okay, and now you can see that we are coming up to the part where we did our first lock stitch, and that is why I didn't trim my threads yet, because it's easier for me to find that position. So now I'm going to go ahead and trim those so they don't get caught up and make an ugly thread nest. Okay, so those are trimmed. And we're going to continue on down to that portion, and we're going to lock our stitches again. So those are locked. I'm going to cut my thread, and that is our first portion. And I did get a little bit off right there, which isn't going to be that big of a deal, because when we do our final seam, that's going to be hidden. So that's not too bad. So let's go ahead and get my other nippers, trim those threads. And now what we're going to do is we are going to turn it around, and we're going to sew the opposite side. And I want to again start where that seam is, where I joined the strip ends together. And I want to do my lock, my threads, my stitches on the same side that I did it the first time. So we're going to make sure that lines up well and start stitching. We'll back stitch, and we're going to stitch all the way around again. And I'll go ahead and speed it up just for time's sake. So I'm going to put my speed all the way up. I'm kind of like looking sideways here, so. And you can see how much louder it is. I got to talk a little louder over the machine. And it's just going to kind of float along. I'm making sure I'm staying up against that guide bar so I get a nice consistent seam. And okay, we are at almost our beginning. So here we are back at our beginning. So I'm going to make sure that I lock my stitches with the reverse stitch. So I'm going to go over that seam, so it'll might be a little loud right there, and I'm going to back stitch. Okay, cut my thread. Okay, and there we have our completed seams, and you can see how nice those look all the way around. They look really good. And for the sake of keeping my costs down, I'm using all white thread. If you prefer, you can match your threads to your fabrics, whatever you wish to do. Okay, so now what you want to do is you're going to look at your strip, and you want to see which side looks the best. So where you locked your stitches, you want to make sure you find the side that looks the best. And this one I think looks the best. So I'm going to find my hardware. Try not to get caught up in the cord of the camera. So I have my hardware, and where'd my seam go? I lost my seam. Okay, we're going to just go around till we find it. Sorry about that. Okay, so there is our seam, and we are reversed, so I want to make sure my hardware is to the right side. And you're going to take your fold, where the seam, and you're going to fold it there. And I found a nice little trick. If you have the mini clips, put the hardware at the bottom so it hangs down. Take your mini clip, clip it right on there, just beyond the, you can see that. I don't have it all the way up against there. That is fine if you do, but it's going to be hard when you lower your, you might get caught on the lever that raises your foot. So what I'm doing is I just want it to hold it there. And that is until I get it up underneath the needle. So I'm going to actually back it off just a hair. So I have it, you can see how I just have it on there. Can you see that? And I want to get it up underneath the foot because I'm still using that foot that has that guide bar, and I have it right up against that area. And that's going to let me be consistent where I do my seam every time. So now that I have it up under my needle, I'm going to remove the clip, and I want to put my needle down, and then I'm going to start my sewing. Because the needle down, when you put your needle down, that's going to help you hold the lanyard in place. And you can see little cat feet behind the machine. And Luna is going to try to take the lanyard. Come on, sweetie. You can't have it, okay? Okay. So I'm going to start my final seam. I'm going to sew a little bit, back stitch to lock my stitch. And I'm going to do this. My thread is out of the machine, so let me see what I did there. Okay, I didn't. Let me remove that. Let me kind of rethread my needle there. And I think I might have just kind of like, when I cut the thread previously, I didn't pull my thread tails out a little. And I've said it before, I really love the Brother automatic threading. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I get that up underneath in between the notch on the foot where I need to. I'm going to lower my needle, bring my bobbin thread up, and I want to pull them back behind. And again, I'm going to put that clip just on there so I know where it's at. Luna, leave the thread alone, sweetie. Leave it alone. She's trying to play with the thread over here off to the side. Oops, I'm really sorry about that. Okay. Let me fix that there. Sorry about that. I try to keep her away from the thread as much as I possibly can. But being a kitty, you know how they are curious. Okay, so put it back up underneath the foot. Put my needle down so it's going to hold that, and then I'm going to remove the clip because you can see on the bar here, the needle bar that attaches the needle to the machine that tightens it, it will interfere. So now what you're going to want to do is you're going to kind of make sure you grab your clip over here to the side. And I do have my machine set to, let me kind of raise that up. You can see here, I have it set to my slowest speed. And the reason why I have it like that is just so I make sure that I don't get this up on the hardware up underneath the needle. because I can really seriously damage my machine. I have, I'm holding my thread tail of my top thread and the bobbin thread, and I'm going to start stitching a little bit real slow and then do my lock and back again, lock, okay, so I'm going to cut my thread, and there you go. We have ourselves a nice finished lanyard. I'm going to readjust the camera and I will be right back. Okay, so now I'm just going to clip my threads. And make sure all my little thread pieces are clipped nicely. And that is your finished lanyard. Really simple. And I found that the mini jelly rolls, they said there were 20 strips, 2.5 inch by 42 inch. And I found that when I was preparing them to press them so I can get them folded right and done, I found that if I laid my ends together and trimmed the selvage off of it, I trimmed a 1/2 inch off of each selvage end, and it was a really nice length when finished. So let's go ahead and measure when finished. We've got 12 and 10. So we've got 22 inches. So it is, that's a pretty good length for an adult. It slid over my neck well, and for me, it came right kind of like above my belly button. So that kind of will give you an idea of how long they are. Yeah, so they turned out really well. I really like how simple and quick they sew up. And can you see my fingers? Can you see how they're a little dark? They're turning blue from this fabric. I've never had a fabric do that to me before, so that's really interesting. Okay, but I pre-cut fabric, that's one of the reasons why I don't work with it often, because I wash all my fabric. So that kind of gives you an idea. Can you see the tint to the ends of my fingers? Yeah, I always pre-wash all my yardage before I ever sew anything, but pre-cut fabric for especially jelly rolls, you can't do that because you will get a lot of fraying. But yeah, anyway, that is it. That is how you sew a lanyard. I hope my video wasn't too much all over the place. If you have any questions, please comment down below. If you have any ideas on projects you would like me to work on, please leave a comment down below. Or you can always email me at jsnc18@gmail.com. This is the email specifically for this YouTube channel. I have mentioned in just the last couple videos that I am trying to get a Amazon linked up. That way, if anybody would like to gift me anything, you could do it through my Amazon account that will be linked to this YouTube. I have a wish list on there of like the threads I use, maybe some jelly rolls, maybe some small packs of hardware. If you want to gift me items, I'm trying to keep everything under on my list under $20. There are a few items that are slightly over $20, and that would be like the larger thread spools like this. When they come in the 6-packs, they're like $22. But if anybody would like to gift me something right now, you can just email me at this email address. And I know that kind of sounds kind of presumptuous, that you don't have to gift me anything. You don't. But this is just so I can keep going on the channel, because the products the supplies, they do get expensive over time. And I will be selling stuff soon. So the lanyards, the key fobs, I hope to be doing some more of the embroidered keychains. So those will all be for sale. And when I get enough product made up, I will be posting that so I can show everybody where they can go to purchase those items. And I'm turning that iron off there. Yeah, so like I said, if you have any comments, please comment down below, or email me at jsnc18@gmail.com. Okay, we'll see you all next time. You all have a great day, great evening, great morning, wherever you are. Thank you, and bye-bye.